So, just finished part 1 of Light of the Jedi. I got a lot of things I want to say. Let's get into it. So 2 things I want to talk about before we get started. First, for anyone who watched my last video where I talked about chapters 1 through 3, at that time I said I wanted to go chapter by chapter. As I read more, I felt like some chapters didn't deserve as much time as others, and it would just become kind of time-consuming bulk content that wouldn't be really useful. So I'm going to condense it by parts, and we're going to talk about part 1 today. So apologies for the confusion there. Second thing I want to talk about, as I go through my weekly videos, I do want to spend at least one of them giving a shout out to someone in the community, whether that be on our subreddit, on Twitter, another YouTuber for you guys to go check out. This week on our Reddit, which is linked down below, there was a post by a user named Pragnolia who made kind of a 3D video game style graphic of Avar Kriss to share, and I'll put that on the screen now. Go check it out, give them some support, and let's help the community grow. Check it out. So, as I mentioned in my last video, if you want to check out the first 8 chapters for free before you get started, check out, again, in the links below. Just a warning, I am going to get into spoilers as I talk about part 1, so if you haven't read it, you don't want anything ruined for you, take a step away, go check out those first 8 chapters, go read the book, come back, and you can hear my thoughts then. For everyone else, let's get into it. So just to sum it up, part 1 really worked for me. I thought it was a really cool introduction to this universe. It gave us a lot of subtle details that help us understand what's going on in the galaxy at large, while also giving us kind of, I think, a new, unique take on the Star Wars story. So part 1 is called The Great Disaster, and it follows chapter by chapter a start of a starcraft accident in a hyperlane, in hyperspace, and the ramifications of that going kind of every 15 to 20 minutes throughout different locations and seeing the impact, how the Jedi respond, and how normal civilians are responding to this as well. So not only is the story a little different than we're used to with Star Wars, I also think the setting is unique. So in the original trilogies and sequel trilogies, we definitely have much smaller numbers of Jedis and Sith, and a lot of hand-to-hand combat, obviously space battles as well, but really a small amount of Force users. The Clone Wars did give us more exposure to larger groups and organization of the Jedi and the Jedi temples, but this is something totally different. We have a lot of Jedi, and not only do we have a lot of Jedi, we have kind of this really peaceful, kind of harmonious world. I talked about it in my first video. The book wants to make it abundantly clear it's a time of peace. This is a time of expansion, it's a time of prosperity, kind of a utopian society, and we haven't really seen the Jedi like this before, and that's a really unique take, and I think that adds a level of intrigue that really separates the High Republic from other canon we've got to this point. So refreshing, cool take, cool story, cool setting. I think that right off the bat is going to appeal to a lot of folks. Another thing that was really important to me was the book's willingness to be mature. As I talked about in my first video, it was not afraid to talk about death. It was not afraid to talk about sacrifice and people dying and being atomized and blown away during this great disaster. And that was really refreshing. I was a little worried, a lot of the material we get for Star Wars, including in the High Republic, is aimed at a younger audience, and there's nothing wrong with that. But for someone like me coming in, am I going to get the same level of enjoyment? And with a book like this, that's not afraid to have kind of your heart-wrenching scenes, your character loss, that to me was really important. It gives me a lot of hope for these next couple years of the High Republic. There will be content that can be powerful and can move us, and so huge encouragement for me, and I hope you guys feel the same way. So big thumbs up as far as its ability to aim at this older audience. Really great. So everything I've said so far has been great and kind of addresses it at a generic level, but none of those things matter if I'm not interested in any of the characters. And part 1 gave us exposure to a lot of different Jedi that will be carrying on, I assume, into other stories and other pathways. In the link below, and I had this in my last video as well, there is a diagram of the different Jedis that are going to be in this book. I'm going to share that right now. So again, last chance, if you're trying to avoid any spoilers, click away now. But I want to talk about some of these characters and my initial thoughts. So inside this diagram, there is a key in the bottom right that explains what these circles and lines mean. So if you need help understanding, again, the link below should help. Right off the bat, I'll just tell you who my favorite character was. I was a huge fan of Loden Greatstorm. It could be that I liked the narration that the audiobook used, that might have enhanced my feelings, but I thought Loden was a character that you just instantly click with. He is a master training Bel Zettifar here, and just his teaching style, firm but loose, very likable, very relatable. Someone if you were a Jedi in training, this is who you'd want. That's who you'd want to be with. Good sense of humor. I thought they gave him, ample opportunities to show his level of power and how he was strong with the Force. And so he just seems like a badass. Like he's got, a great sense of humor, really relatable right off the bat. Someone that I really resonated with. And a Twilight, which is kind of fun, a little bit different than our typical favorite human Jedis. We do have a lot of aliens throughout this list, as you'll see as well. Avar Kriss is really the powerful, what we feel like is one of the most powerful Jedis we're exposed to in this part 1. She uses this ability of almost like a Force enhancement, a Force kind of melding where she's communicating with other Jedis throughout the galaxy, which is really unique. It's always interesting to hear the Force users from the perspective of someone who is using the Force, what they're seeing, what they're experiencing. It's a lot different than seeing it on screen. So that was really cool as well. She definitely had a lot of parts, was really the leader of this, and was kind of communicating with various Jedis and various objects through this advanced use of the Force, which was really unique. I think that was kind of cool and made her seem very powerful. I think they said she'd been a Jedi for about, I think she said 3 decades, about 30 years. And she seemed really cool as well. The rest of these we didn't get a ton of really perspective besides Bell, who seems really fun as well, but still in training. So really, someone we can maybe grow with throughout the novels and the books as we go. One character to me that I now am intrigued with is Elzar Mann. In one of the scenes, Avar is talking about who Elzar is and why he's unique. And he just sounds like a character I want to know more about. Likes to do things his own way within the Force, doesn't like to repeat his processes, kind of breaks the rules, like to work solo, won't get promoted to Master because he's kind of a wild card. Super interesting, seems like a lot of fun. Someone that I'm looking forward to find out more about in part 2, part 3, or further novels. He right now is, I think, the one I'm most intrigued about. So just a couple off the bat there. Those are the Jedi we really hear about. The book does an interesting job of giving us some, human, just Republic members to really listen to in part 1 as well, which I thought was a nice touch. It wasn't just, the Jedi, which obviously is who we care most about. It did ground us a little bit with other folks working during their part in the Republic and how they were impacted. So kind of cool there as well. Now, what excited me most? What was my favorite chapter, my favorite part of part 1? And actually that comes in the interludes with the introduction of the Nihil. I am a sucker for villains. I am much more interested in the Sith when it comes to, our generation. And when it comes to the High Republic, I am instantly super excited with the Nihil. We get them in one chapter where we see they're up to their marauding ways in kind of a ravaged system by some of the pieces from the Great Disaster. And how cool is it to hear them described riding in the storms with some kind of electric style weapons, gassing out a chamber while wearing these kind of futuristic masks. This is the stuff that excites me. How are they going to match up against the Jedi, right? Because the Jedi we're hearing right now are extremely powerful. And they're going to have to do a lot of convincing, I think, to make fans buy the Nihil when we've seen, the Sith, right? The Sith are so interesting. We've had so many, Sith Lords throughout time, and there's so much intrigue to them. And I'm one of those folks included. Any Sith material we get, you'll see me making videos or content about it. That's the stuff I love. But these characters, who I was on the fence about when the subject was announced, hearing that one chapter with them, especially in the audiobook that adds some kind of ambient music, etc., really killed it for me. That was what was awesome about part 1, and I'm excited to see if they're in the rest of this. And hopefully throughout the phases of the High Republic, these guys are here to stay. It will be disappointing if they kind of hype them up just to dispose of them after a couple books. I'm hoping that's not the case, but first chapter, you got me sold, and that's what's having me come back for more. I love good villains, and these ones sound pretty cool to get started. So to wrap up my thoughts, really excited with The Light of the Jedi. This is what I wanted to see when the High Republic was announced. Something new, something interesting, something that lets us stay in the Star Wars universe but get exposure we haven't had before. It's also helped this part 1 to do away with some of the fears I had, right? Is this really targeted at me? Is it targeted at my age group? Is it targeted at, my understanding of Star Wars? I haven't read every piece of canon. I don't consider myself an expert by any means, will I still get the level of enjoyment those fans will? And so far, I have. I do have the first issue of the Marvel comic run as well. I'm waiting to read that until I finish this book because I do believe it follows after the story as far as the chronological order goes. And I'm now planning to check out some of the younger aimed viewing material as well. I think there's some younger age books that have been released recently, and I now feel more reason to look at those because I've liked Light of the Jedi so much. I want to know more about this world. I want to understand these characters more. I am fully invested. I hope you guys feel the same. Really excited about the High Republic. Hoping these years of content give us some things to talk about. I still am going to make general Star Wars content as well as I go throughout my weeks. This is not the only material I do ingest, so I'll probably want to share my thoughts on other things as well. Just going to continue to make videos that I want to talk about. So thank you guys for supporting so far. Really got a lot of engagement on my last videos about the hate that I had seen for the High Republic and got some good responses from folks and had some back and forth. So appreciate everyone there. Make sure you like and subscribe as content keeps coming out. Looking forward to my next video where we talk about part 2 of Light of the Jedi and some other material as well. So thank you guys for stopping by. Talk to you later.